Men. What was something that blew your mind when you first discovered it? Tagging as potential NSFW. In any town, business travelers, usually two men in my experience, can sit at a bar, have a great conversation, and never see one another again. Single-serving friends, it's a small joy of life. I used to live in Chicago. Was out for a run along the lake, by the planetarium. There's a small round building right next to the lakefront trail. I noticed the door was open, decided to peek inside. I'm a nosy fucker and there was no locked gate or anything. Stuck my head in and saw an older guy with a big gray beard in a big chair among a bunch of machinery. He looks right at me and says, "Wanna look at the sun?" We are focused on some really cool solar flares. Turns out this was a smaller observatory, called the Doan Observatory, with limited hours where it's accessible to the public. I hung out there for like half an hour looking at the sun, learning from this guy. Fucking awesome that something like that is just available to people. Super cool experience. Edit. Just looked it up. It's the largest telescope in Chicago that is accessible to the public, and has regular hours. If you're in the area, I recommend checking it out. I walked into a research lab in college and they had this massive device. An ultra-high vacuum cryogenic scanning tunneling microscope. It could image and even pick up and put down single atoms. I had no idea such a thing existed until I walked in that room. I worked in that lab for all 4 years while I was in college. I used to be a school bus driver. That a 40-foot-long, bright yellow object, festooned with flashing lights is completely invisible to so many drivers is truly mind-boggling. Journaling it blew my mind how much it helped me to process what I was feeling in a particularly difficult period of my life. Seems silly that just writing a bunch of words would do anything, but it really does. I still remember being a skeptical 11-year-old upon hearing my friend claim that girls didn't have penises. The claim that they had a sort of hole between their legs also sounded dubious. Imagine my surprise when I verified the claim. How good it felt to put my penis in someone else. The name though. He didn't say it felt good for the someone else. This one is crazy, but as a kid, learning about the sun's death positively rocked me to my core. I asked the classic, well, if the sun is just going to expand and destroy everything, then what's the point? Which instead of using that as a reason to be depressed or whatever, I just used it as a reason to slack off in elementary school. That it's quite common for women having a miscarriage during their first pregnancy. Still, fuckabage sucks, but once it happens to you, or your wife, you find out how many people around you actually experience the same thing. That pleasing a woman really isn't that difficult, so long as they communicate and you actually give a fuck. Having a cold drink while taking a hot shower. Totally mind-blowing, especially after a bad, hard day. Shower beer after yard work is amazing. That attractive women like the ones you see on TV or porn or movies actually exist. In my youth I thought that beautiful women like what you see in TV weren't real people. Maybe they were CGI or something. Because where I grew up, rural Kansas, I never saw a genuinely attractive woman, ever, in my first 20 years of life. I moved away and it was a night and day difference. Even more so when I traveled overseas. This might be the hardest anyone has ever dunked on Kansas, and man, that is an accomplishment worth noting. I was texting her, ran out of shit to say, so I asked, "Penny for your thoughts?" She sent back an eggplant and my brain did an actual flip. It was the first time I'd seen direct evidence of a woman actually being horny. Diet and exercise really help significantly with mental health. It quite literally saved me from ending it. I go to therapy, and I've tried many medications. Exercise still has benefited me significantly more than anything else. I could never live my life without the gym now. Salads actually do taste good and are refreshing if they're actually made fresh with good dressing and aren't just some Olive Garden side salad trash. The power of neutral feelings. We often experience periods of joy and sorrow as opposite ends of a spectrum, but usually take the average, uneventful moments for granted. Only when something bad happens, do we realize how gifted a boring day is. Starting to appreciate the normal, mundane moments totally changes the way we see life. The sudden change in somebody's behavior towards you as soon as they realize they are not going to get from you what they have been asking, trying for. That black people don't just style their hair differently or treat their hair differently. Their hair is literally different at a molecular level. Molecularly. The same structurally. Different. That people aren't exaggerating when they say they can see images in their heads. I have aphantasia, means I can't visualize mental images. Only time I've managed to do it was with some diesel doughweed. 11-year-old me had no idea. 11-year-old me thought it was a beautiful blossom into ladyhood. I was proven wrong. I remember being so excited to get my first period. Until I got it. I cried over the dumbest shit and got angry over the dumbest shit. Dropping a teaspoon or looking at a dog was enough to set me off. Slite. Until I read the replies, I thought this was about punctuation. I have nothing to contribute now. Relativity. Truly mind-bending. The fact that time and space have no meaning to a photon even though they travel at a finite speed broke my brain. A photon checks into a hotel. The receptionist asks if they need help with their bags. The photon replies, "No thanks, I'm traveling light."